Okay, I'm back. I am just getting set up. I am in Summer Nights. And what I want to look at is doing a black background. Now the page is going smoothly. Everything's great, except I'm using a black pencil and I have put on like a bazillion coats, and you probably can't tell it. Yeah, you can right in there. There are still little specks of white peeking through. So I am quite frankly tired of working with the black pencil trying to get that covered. So I am going to try something else. I have the Derwent Inktense watercolor ink pencils. They're not watercolor, but you use them like a watercolor. So anyway, I've done another video on these before, so go look it up if you need to. But the thing with this is it is ink. So once it's dry, it's not going to reconstitute if it gets wet again, which makes it really nice. So I have a little container of water. I have some brushes, and I'm going to try to go over this and see what I can get covered. Now, there's several ways to use these pencils. You can color and then come back with the water and activate it and get it wet and move it around. Or, and what I'm going to do this time, is you can get your brush wet and just go off the side. Let me see. I want to be sure you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm in enough. I'm going to actually go off the side of the pencil and just pick up the ink on the brush. And I'm going to come in. Now you'll want to try this somewhere first and make sure your paper is thick enough if you're wanting to do a watercolor style background. I happen to know that this paper is thick enough. Now, here's what I was afraid of, is it is not going black. So let's try it over here, and that's fine. I'm just going to blot that just to make it dry quick. I'm going to go over here and see what happens if I go over the top of where I did colored pencil before. And you know what? This is working. It's going right down in all those little divots that were still hanging around. So I could either watercolor first and go black over the top with the Inktense, or I could Inktense and then color. I could probably do it either way. I am going to color first and then go over it with the paint, because I just don't want my paper getting too ripply. It is not going through, but I'm just thinking it's going to be a little bit easier this way. And I will go back and pick up more of the water from time to time, but I'm just using up every bit of water that's in this brush. And I don't know how much you can tell, but it really is going down in all the little divots. And we'll just see how this dries in a minute. I'm just putting that on pretty good there. Let's rinse this brush. Let's assume this is going to go okay. Now, I've done before where I put marker over the top of black pencil, but I almost always do black pencil first because that gives me that black base. And I find it's just easier to paint if I'm wanting something really, really solid. Now see here, I'm going on this, and you can see it just kind of crawling up the brush. that black. And then I'm going to come in here and just stroke through here. I'll have to get around all these little areas where the little beads are. But for now, I just want to see if it's going to cover good and is it going to streak and all that kind of stuff. And I think we're going to be okay with it. So now the question is, let me go ahead and rinse this and put this out of the way. So my next question is, do I have to cover that much with pencil to get the solid black background that I'm after? So if I come in here with my black pencil and just get some base color on, am I going to be okay? Or do I still have to put on like 5 million layers? So we're going to try it. We're going to find out. We've been getting really real and seeing mistakes and me learning things with you on and off in the past month. So let's try this out too. Okay, just going to get some of this in here. That is dry, so I could go over that now. So see, if I decided to paint first and then go over, you can see that's what it would look like right there. And that's okay. I mean, it works either way. I just figured since I had already started with the black over there that I should do the same throughout, just in case there are any differences. Maybe they wouldn't show up too badly. But yeah, next time I'm probably just going to not make it black. Black is so hard. But on the other hand, black is very rewarding because a picture really, really pops when you use a black background. If you're ever doing like really bright flowers or something, try a black background. What you can even do is take a picture of the picture you've colored, put it over into a photo or art program, and then I'm going back over to my water and my pen, my ink. But you can put it into a program and just change the background color on it. You know, they used to have Paint. There probably is still a program called Paint, paint.net and all that stuff. So anyway, you can go into one of those programs and just take the bucket tool and pour your entire background with whatever color you want to see what it's going to look like when you do that with colored pencil. Okay? And that's the way I started when I was coloring, was I would just take and put colors down on different pages, see what they looked like. Yeah, that brush is really small. Rinse that out. Go back to my larger angle brush. Brushes are really cheap. If you go to, like these are grips. Let's see, soft grip. It says it right here. You can get them at Michael's and I think Hobby Lobby and Joann Fabrics at the craft stores. But soft grips are some of your cheaper brushes that are really worth having. Don't want to go into that bead. But anyway, you can also go to Dollar Tree if you're wanting like a mop brush or a brush that you can use to brush off the little flecks of rolled up coloring from your pencils. You know, when it just sheds a bit. You can go, let's try it this way. You can go just buy a blush brush, a makeup brush, and use it to lightly dust off all the background. Or whenever you've got those little, you know what I'm talking about, those little flecks of pencil that sometimes bristle up. Now, the only thing is I've got to make sure that that all gets wet so that it dries, because after it dries is when it will no longer reconstitute and smear if it gets wet again. But you've got to make sure it all gets wet that first time. But yeah, I am liking this. Very much like how that's going. And again, it's an ink. It's not watercolor pencils like what you would think of your typical watercolor that comes in tubes and stuff like that. It really is an ink. And I'll hold it right up close again in a little bit. And we'll see how it looks. Now my paper is rippling some, so you do have to watch out for that because this is very wet. But again, this is taking care of that problem I was having with all that white showing through. But yeah, if you decide that you want to do some watercolor or even some white paint to do like highlights and stuff, then I would say you're going to need a couple of brushes, but they do not have to be expensive brushes. You're going to want something that's called a liner, and it was that first brush I used that they don't have a whole lot of hairs in them, and that way you can come through and sorry, I'm trying to concentrate on what I'm doing and talk, which I always do. Anyway, you can do the liner for adding highlights and streaking through, like if somebody's got a shine mark on their eye, or if you want dots, you can use the back end of a brush, you know, and just dot. And the size of your tip is going to determine the size of your dot. So experiment with that. Also, I think I showed once before what's called dotters, D-O-T-E-R-S, and you can actually get a dowel rod, sharpen it in a pencil sharpener, and depending on how sharp you get it, what size point you go to, that's going to it's going to determine what size dots you end up with. So if you don't sharpen it all the way and you leave a little bit of a flat end on it, then you're going to have a little bit fatter of a dot. If you go all the way to a tip, like a really sharp pencil, then you're going to end up with more of a teeny dot. So, and again, I think I went over dotters and some different brushes in an old video. If you need to see an updated video on that, let me know, and I will see what I can do about making another one of those. So, anywho, let's see, yesterday was Mother's Day, so yes, I am still doing my videos a little ways out. I'm still a little bit ahead on them, which is good for me because with family, you never know when something's going to happen and you're going to have to take some time off. So I'm just trying to get a few videos ahead. There we go. Just get in all those little spots. And then I'm going to hold this up in a minute and show you the difference. I'm going to go ahead and go in here, and then I'll get it wet. Just because I do have a little bit more control over the pencil than I do the brush in these small areas. Okay, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of water. Now when I go in to pick up this water, because I feel like you need to know these things, see how there's a droplet of water right there on the edge? Okay, I need to stand up so I can see what you're seeing. There's a little droplet right there. So I'm just going to let the brush, see it just touched into it, and then I'll tap to make sure I don't get too much water going. Okay, and then I'll come back in and I'll start spreading that water around to activate all that ink that's in there. Now, while I've got that going, I can do these little marks that are right here, because there's just enough paint. I call it paint, but you know what I'm saying, it's ink. There's just enough ink on this brush to get those little areas also. And see, I went up in there a little bit. Just take it while it's still wet. You'll see my fingers got all that black on it. Just rub it back off there. Once it's dried, you're not taking it back off. Whereas when you're using watercolor, if you re-wet it, you can move it around some and therefore at least get some of the edges off. But when you're doing ink, when it's dry, it's dry. All right, let's go back and look at this again. This is the one right in here is where I just started with it being wet. And so that's still not covered really well. Pick up a dot of water, come over and get this wet. And take your time with this. This will still take me a long time, but I won't be so frustrated in trying to get rid of all the little white bits, all those little divots in the paper that I cannot manage to get covered up. Okay, so that's why I'm changing over to using these ink tints on this project. And you've seen me use this 2 different ways now. You've seen me color on the paper and then get it wet, and you've seen me go straight to the book off the side of the pencil. Now there's one more that you can really do. You can take your pencil, let me reach for scrapbooking piece of paper here, just swatchable scrapbooking paper. I can do this. Okay, you see that end's getting a little messed up. Pick up some water, come over and use this like a paint palette. I'm going to pick it up and then bring it over here. And that works too. Okay, I can just pick some of that up and bring it over. I don't like this as well unless I'm actually using it to color in something like on rubber stamps or something. Then it's okay. But anyway, let's see how that looks now. Let me get all this out of the way. Rinse my brush good. Take care of your brushes. They will last forever. They will last and last and last. In fact, I've sold used brushes and people still buy them because they know they will keep lasting. But I just had too many. Okay, so now when I pick it up and show it to you, see a little bit of streaking, but all those little divots, they're gone. Okay, so again, these are the Inktense pencils. They are not real cheap. I want to say I got my first set from Michael's with a coupon, and then I want to say I actually went on Amazon and found them cheaper, so I returned the ones that were from Michael's. That was way back in the day when they used to do 40% off coupons all the time. It was so much cheaper. So do shop around. Go online and look up. I have no idea what the prices are now. I seriously don't. But I do know, and they come all these colors across here. In fact, let's see. Yes, I did. You know how I love my swatches. Well, I swatched my Inktense. So I showed them at their strongest color and then went all the way down to where they're fully diluted. And I did that for every color. And some of you are going to be like, go ahead, show us all the colors now. So I will. I'll finish flipping through here. If you're still with me, the Coloring Books Keep It Clean group on Facebook, the ladies group, I've got to come up with a challenge yet for June. I have not come up with one. Some of the challenges that are coming in for May, in fact, all of them, where you're using just one color, they are looking awesome. I wish there was a way I could show you all of them. They're really looking cool. So, yeah, if you have any ideas, well, let's see, by the time this posts, will it already be June? No, I don't think so. I think we've got some time. And if not for June, maybe I'll use it for July. So down in the comments, post your ideas. What do you think would be a good challenge? What would be a good challenge in coloring? In fact, I may do June, just, encourage you to finish any pages that you've already started. It may be something very basic like that. Just because I know we all end up with pages that we've started and we don't quite finish them. So yeah, this is the Inktense 36. So there was 36 pictures in here. Pictures, inks. Okay, and this is the outliner, and it's just a regular pencil. You can tell it does not really watercolor. And it comes in there, but it's just another pencil. So that's the Inktense. That's the background. I think I'm gonna go put on a Hallmark movie and take my pencil in there, finish all my black, and then I'll be ready to sit down and ink up the rest of it. And then this page will be almost done. I've still got the little dots to do, and I may come back in and do them in gold. Oh, and I've got to do all these centers, but I'm going to use gel pens. So, all right, thank you so much for hanging out and sitting through ads. I try to get short ones. I sign up for short ones. So, but anyway, thank you. Leave comments. I do read them. Hope you are all doing wonderful, and I will see you again in a few days. Bye.